G'day, my friends. Wonder how many of you have ever had something you really wanted to commit yourself fully to, but there were other distractions in your life, other things that were taking up your time. And I say that, I recognize that for some of us, it's a hobby or a special interest or family you wish you could spend more time with, and it may be your actual job that's even getting in the way. There's a story in the book of Acts in chapter 18 when the Apostle Paul is in the city of Corinth, and he's working as a tent maker in order to support himself so that he can do the work that God has given him to do of telling people about Jesus. And in the context of the story, we find him working hard, doing his usual routine of making tents during the day and then preaching in his spare time when Silas and Timothy arrive, and they bring a gift of money that sets him free to 100% commit himself to the preaching of the gospel, the good news about Jesus. Find that story in Acts chapter 18, starting verse 5. It says, after Silas and Timothy came down from Macedonia, that Paul spent all his time preaching the word. And he testified to the Jews that Jesus was the Messiah. See, Paul had been given a mission to testify to the truth about Jesus Christ. And he was doing that with all of his ability and all of his time now that he had the time available. But the Jewish people didn't receive the message. In fact, they didn't just say, no, we're not interested. They didn't just reject his message. They actually began to insult him and oppose him. It says in verse 6 that when they opposed and insulted him, though, Paul's response was this. Paul shook the dust from his clothes and said, your blood is upon your own heads. I am innocent. From now on, I will go preach to the Gentiles. Paul recognized that he had done his job. He couldn't make people accept what he was testifying about. So then he goes to testify to the Gentiles. These are the non-Jewish people of the day. Verse 7, then he left and went to the home of Titius Justus, a Gentile who worshiped God and lived next door to the synagogue. And they received his message, and they followed Jesus. In fact, Crispus, the leader of the synagogue, that's the Jewish gathering place at the time, equivalent to our church buildings, and everyone in his household believed in the Lord. Many others in Corinth also heard Paul and became believers and were baptized. And you see the parallel here that in the first group, Paul testifies to them, and they not only reject, but oppose Paul for what he's saying. The second group, he testifies, and they receive what he's saying. They accept it with joy. They receive the truth about who Jesus is, and they follow him. It's a really exciting moment. And you know, Paul had a lot of challenges to testifying about Jesus. There was many times when he was opposed. In fact, he was beaten at times. He had been stoned almost to death. He had been shipwrecked. He had suffered in order to share the good news about Jesus with other people. And as a result, there were many reasons for him to be afraid. But Paul not only testified to the truth about Jesus, Jesus spoke the truth to Paul as well. And I think this is so interesting, the story that Paul is called to testify, and Jesus chooses to testify to him. It says in verse 9 that one night the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision and told him, do not be afraid. Speak out. Don't be silent. For I'm with you, and no one will attack and harm you, for many people in this city belong to me. Now here's the point. I'm sharing this story with you today, and I'm reminding myself that because that we are called, like Paul, to testify to others the truth about Jesus Christ. We're called to testify to those who are religious and to those who aren't. And I want to just encourage you, like Paul, not to let negative reactions stop you, nor to let the positive reactions decide for you. Sometimes we're tempted to, just because somebody likes what we say, to just only talk to those who like us. But we're called to go to all people and tell them the truth about Jesus Christ, to testify to who he is and what he's done. Because at the end of the day, my friends, Jesus, he is the good news. Have a great day.